VTK Master of Science student, and I will be moderating today's event. We would like to welcome our speaker, Associate Professor T.S. Dr. Chiu Boon Chong, Associate Professor Dr. Sazlin Arif, Postgraduate Coordinator, and all participants. Thank you all participants for joining us today. We have about 47 participants today from UTM, postgraduate students, as well as UTM academic staff. Before we start the session, let me introduce our honorable speaker. We are very honored for the opportunity of having Associate Professor T.S. Dr. Chiu Boon Chong with us today. He is one of the academic staff in Faculty of Technology Management and Entrepreneurship. His expertise is in green technology and sustainable management angle from social science and management perspective. Associate Professor Chiu teaches research methodology since 2012 and have a vast experience in teaching research method for undergraduate, MBA, Master by Research and PhD students. And now, without further delay, I would like to invite our guest speaker to start his sharing session. Please welcome Associate Professor T.S. Dr. Chiu.
Thank you, PM Sazlin, for the invitation, and also thank you, Faika, for the introduction. So good afternoon to all of you. I hope that you all are well, and also thank you for IPTK organizing this platform for me to share a little bit about how do you generate the research idea. Now, I would say that because this is not a webinar, I have to say, it's not going to be a conventional webinar. And most of the conventional webinars, there's not interaction between the speakers and also the participants. Most of the people just listening, then after that they quit and then they're out from the systems. So I'd like to do something different for today. You see, you have the chat box over there, right? So I would say that because I should create another platform, but I'm afraid that, some of the platform might not be compatible, particularly in some of the countries which not allows, the usage of, for example, any kind of social media platforms or any kind, like a whiteboard or whatsoever. So I will utilize the chat box over here for us to further discuss something. But definitely today, our scope, you have to help me because I cannot go too far away from today's topic. If you're asking me something which is out from here, then it will become difficult for me because the preparations of my material is mostly about the ideas and also topic generation. So what I utilize is I would love to have a more interactive session with all of you. I have all my respected colleagues here. I can see I have Dr. Noraini, Dr. Norida, Dr. Maziato, Dr. Sharul Anwar, Dr. Taufik, and all those my respected friends over here. Yeah, so I would say that it is not really a way that educating teach, but it's a way that for me. Okay, it's a way that for me to share what I have learned and also what I have experienced in supervising the students along the process. So we'll utilize the chat box as frequent as possible. So at the first stage, we'd like to know how are we going to deal with this. Right, at the first beginning of time when PM Sazlin asked me to choose a topic, and then the first thing is I say, as a first person who are giving this talk, I would like to start something very basic, very fundamental, but somehow most of us, we have forgotten, right? I'm not sure whether you agree with me. Generating research ideas is not as simple as all of us has thought, right? So what do we mean by generating these ideas? It means that how far the idea can be robust. So I'd like to share my screen over here, at least something to guide me through along the process. And as I say, this one is going to be interactive. You can stop me anytime. And if let's say like I have anything, a question, please also give me your interactions because this is a clinic. It is not webinar like, lectures or whatsoever. It is a clinic, means that I need to listen from you. I need to get your idea. I need to get your answer. Okay, then after that, when we go to the end of the session, if you found out I have done a good job, please tell me. You give me marks 1 until 10. 10 is the best, 1 is the lowest. You can give me any mark so I can have my self-reflection. You know, I'm not going to penalize you. I'm not going to remember your name if you give me 0 marks. It doesn't really matter. The reason I ask is because genuinely and sincerely, I would like to know how did I go. Okay, so that is the way that we conduct for the clinic. And by the way, I'll switch off my camera so that we are able to concentrate on the sessions that we have already set over here. Right. So research idea, many of us, as I say, we overlook the importance of these. So the first question for all of you, it doesn't matter whether you are still new, you are just come into your master's or PhD journeys, or you are somewhere halfway, or you might near to the end already, you want to submit your thesis right now. Let's come over here and have a look and reflect ourselves. The first question would be, how do you know your idea is robust for the postgraduate studies? That is an interesting one, isn't it? How do you know it is robust enough for the postgraduate studies? Now, the robustness over here, it doesn't really mean that it has to be big, it has to be deep. But how much do you really comply with the requirement, the institutional requirement? Yeah. So that is the first one that you have to understand. How far that my idea is robust for the postgraduate institutional requirement. Either you are doing masters or you're doing PhD. Okay. Now assume that most of you here are doing research, right? So if let's say like I can accommodate those who are coming in for taught course or maybe mixed mode, you also have an element of the research components that you need to do, right? So in such a case, I will assume that all of us, no matter you are, I think some of the undergraduates are here, right? So masters are here, PhD are here. So when we are talking about research by itself, so we are talking the completeness of the research, okay? So the first thing is, how much do you know that your idea is robust for your studies? So how far does it comply with the institutional requirement? How far it is contribute to the theory? Now, theory is the one that's going to depart your entire journey. Okay, it is a departure for your studies. And by the end of the day, you have to contribute to the theory so that you are topping up. I'm using a simple words, okay? Topping up the knowledge. That is the first one that we want to talk about, right? So let me do some of the preparation here. So you see everything is live over here. That is the beauty of doing clinics. And later, when I want to ask you information, you also can give me some feedback so that I can answer you live. So that is the beauty of doing things live, isn't it? I mean, you go to the concert because you want to see things live. This is not pre-recorded. It is not something that I will just put my PowerPoint, clicking here and there. And how do you make sure that your studies is going to be practical, right? We cannot work in a silo. We cannot just keep ourselves remain in the laboratory by doing all sorts of simulations. By the end of the day, you need to know that it has to be practical. And it has to be contributive, okay? Contribute to the bigger view of macro aspect, right? So for example, you're looking at how does it contribute to the economic development? How does it mean to the social well-being? Or might be political stability, technological advancement. All of these are the contributes to the macro aspect. And obviously, when you look at your idea itself, it has to be something that you're really good at. It cannot be something that you are weak or something that you are not interested and you put it as your master's or PhD studies. And then you always think that you want to come here just for learning. Come on, we are doing these masters and PhD. One of the biggest enemy is the time itself. You only have 2 to 3 years for your master's and 3 to 4 years for your PhD, you have to do something that you're really good at. Am I right? You have to also comply with the strength of your supervisor, right? So that's the reason why you're coming in, you find your supervisor, then after that you need to get his or her expertise, either is an expert content or expert of the knowledge, expert of the methodology. All of these will start to making your studies start to become robust, right? And after that, obviously, one of the very important things is how far can you manage it, your resources, okay? Particularly, all of us, we have to face how we're going to manage with the cost, the time, right? And finally, one thing for sure is how do we get ourselves move forward from there after you have completed your studies? Because, like it or not, with the topic, with the idea that you have generated, that you have spent so many years, you yourself will be called as the expert for the studies that you have spent your time. So that is the way that you found out that the research idea for the first question, how do you know your idea is robust for your postgraduate studies? Then suddenly, I hope that it starts to knock at your consent, and you start to realize that it is not something just you can pick and you can plug or you can match. It has to be somewhere sitting in between of all of these criteria you can call, or even constraint also you can call, right? So those that forces you can become the criteria, can become the driving factors. Those which possess or tries to put you into challenges, then you know that they can become a constraint. For example, you found out that the institutional requirements too high, or maybe you found out that your topic cannot be contributive to the knowledge. So that is the constraint that you have to overcome. The second questions that we would like to know is, how do you know that your research idea can be sustainable? Now, like it or not, when you start generating your research idea, most of it is always done during the first year. Am I right? So that is the time that you send in your proposal, you found your supervisors who are helpful, and after that you need to carry out for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, or even 4 years of studies. Now, if let's say that you have already stimulated or you have done your research, your topic or your idea set in 2018, and today is 2021. Now, I have received many questions from the students. They ask me, sir, I set my idea that time, and now I found out that in 2021, COVID hit us very hard. So how am I going to do with my topics right now? How am I going to do with my ideas right now? So you see, whatever you said many, many years ago has to come to the end, and it has to be produced as a thesis for yourself. And this is the completions that you need to always remember. And you will start to appreciate, oh, so many years ago, the idea seeded from somewhere and it carried out until today. And finally, after you graduated, you call yourself masters or doctors for certain field of your studies. So you start to appreciate, that time I was mingling around, sitting around, and I start to think, how am I going to come up with my good idea that can sustain until many, many years to come? I mean, obviously, in UTAN, we are talking about GOT, right? So even part-time or full-time, you also have the time frame for yourself. It cannot be your studies takes up until a decade, correct? So you start to appreciate that time, what has shaping my title and what comes before that. It must be an idea. The third question is, do you set your research idea in stone or you check in it frequently? That is also another way that you have to reflect yourself. If you already say that I have to make sure that my idea already been set, I'm never going to change it, well, you do not allow certain kind of flexibility. So there's always a challenge for you if you never reflect. You know, the term is you need to reflect your idea from time to time. And obviously, you have to also make sure that it is flexible for not major, but minor changes. If you're talking about major changes, imagine that every year you come up with the idea and then keep on changing it. I think you and your supervisor will be very tired on all those development. So that's why in such a case, you found out that it has to allow for certain degree of flexible changes in a minor way, not a major one. Because like it or not, and any stages, if you really want to know, if you proceed accordingly to your progress, your year 2 should completed your literature review. Your year 3, you have already completed your research methods and as well as your data collection. And then only that time you say you want to reverse the process, that's going to be very time consuming. So by right now, then you start to appreciate that. The first question, how far it is robust enough. The second one is, how do you know that it's going to be sustainable? And the third one is, do you check it frequently? Do you discuss it frequently? Okay. So by then, the first things that I think is nice to share with you, okay, you can keep coming in with your question if you have, right? So I can answer your question over here. So we will start to remember that we will focus our topics today is on idea generation. So we do not want to go too far away from here. Well, you can share your experience. You can share anything with me over here. That's where this clinic is all about. I think most of the PhD students or master students, when they come in for their studies, they always come with what? They always come with their dream, correct? Everybody come with their dream. I think all of you might be start to think that, okay, after I got my title, what should I address myself? You know, Dr. Koo, Dr. Chu, Dr. Ali, you know, all these names, Dr. Mutu, you know, all of these salutations start to be motivating. But I'm not sure how many of you really go through by understanding fundamentally the institutional requirement or the national requirement, at least, you know, for Malaysia, on what they call for Master of Science by Research and what they call by PhD by Research. So if let's say like you have not found this, then I would like to share with you today so that at least you understand what are the institutional requirements, making sure that you understand the differences between the Masters by Research and also the PhD by Research. So for all these materials, you do not need to copy. You're just able to go for BCQ. If let's say like you can, you know, when you hit Google, okay, let me try. And when you come to Google, you just hit my name over here. Then there's the documents that are already uploaded here. So it's BCQ Academia EDU. So when you click over here, you can see I've prepared some of the materials for my students as well as those works that I've done before. And then you're going down to these teaching materials where you can see what are the materials that are uploaded here. Okay, so these are considered as the teaching materials for Masters and PhD. Right, so this is the latest version in 2021 where it starts to put some different elements over here for you to take note. So I would like to scroll down quickly. By the way, this is the documents that, as I mentioned, master's and doctoral degree, and the latest version. And what we are looking at is particularly at the research parts. There's a standard for master's and doctoral degree by research. Okay. So we would like to see on the scope. If let's say like we want to know master's studies, by the end of the day, my supervisors keep asking me, you have to be practical, practical, practical. You need to utilize theory, theory, theory. If you never read this document, you would not know the requirement from all the supervisors I actually guided by all of these. So you see, the master degree by research, we call level 7 under the MQF. By the end of the program, so you always need to reverse engineer, means that you have to make sure that you already comply with all of these, then you can call yourself, you completed your master degree research. So you see, I may read it out. At the end of the program, the graduates must be able to demonstrate in-depth and frontier knowledge and understanding in the relevant field of practice. So you have to have in-depth and frontier knowledge. That's why sometimes your supervisor might say that your literature is too old. The framework has been used too much. It is over-researched. Because you have to know that by the end of the day, you have to make sure that you're able to demonstrate in-depth and frontier knowledge. You have to critically and creatively apply the knowledge in one or more fields to resolve the complex disciplinary and practical problems. Many of your supervisors say to you, you have to be critical, particularly doing at your research problem, research idea, and your literature review. Am I right? All these terms. And importantly, you have to know that it has to be apply your knowledge. See the keywords here. To resolve the complex disciplinary and practical problem. It cannot be something simulated. By the end of the day, it doesn't have any practical values, right? You have to be able to conduct rigorous and independent research or investigation with minimal supervision. Now, that is also one of the requirements. If you are doing full-time research, then you know that you are not able to see your supervisor every day. You're only able to do these where your supervisor set an appointment. Then after that, perhaps 2 to 3 weeks later, 1 month later, 2-3 months later, you come back with the progress. That is what we call as the minimal supervision. So if you're expecting that the supervisor is going to be with you 24/7, then you know that you could not comply with the minimal supervision. Next, you have to perform the research, adhere to legal, ethical, professional, and sustainable practices. That's why your idea of your research would not go and invade people's privacies. You would not take out people's private and confidential information. You are not meant to study something that makes people look bad, because there's always legal, ethical, professional, and sustainable practices that you need to comply. You have to have the intellectual leadership qualities and management skills. Leadership over here, it means that how are you going to stand out from the studies? There are many people who are doing similar studies on the same field. If you are doing marketing, people can do social media marketing, electronics, digital marketing, e-marketing satisfaction, a lot more out from there. And how are you going to portray your intellectual leadership qualities? And obviously, management skills is how far do you manage your resources? And time is the biggest enemy for all of us. I've gone through the process. That's why I'm here to share with you. I'm not the one to tell yourself that I'm the best. No, I also learn from the mistakes. So that's where that management in terms of time, financial, relationship, how do you do your family planning? If you're just new married, right? You plan to have a kid, or maybe in your confinement, or you lost your job. A lot of personal issues will start come in, and it requires you to have a proper management skills. Next one, communicate effectively in the field and interact with the specialists and general audience. So the communication over here, it means that verbally as well as your written language. So that's where that you need to have your oral presentation, You're being trained by UTEM or IPTK or any faculties by conducting oral presentation, oral examination. Even though you are undergraduates, you also need to do that. And after that, you need to write out your thesis. And after that, you need to write your journals. Master students, you have to write one Scopus or WOS index journal. The PhD has to write 2 pieces of it. The reason is because you need to communicate effectively with the specialist and the general audience. And after that, you have to select and use suitable digital and analytical tools technique to research problem. Fundamentally, do you know how to use Microsoft Word? Do you know how to use Microsoft PowerPoint, Excel? Or if you want to go far more advanced, do you know how to use analytical software for quantitative or qualitative studies? And finally, you have to demonstrate the commitment to long life learning and personal development. Because obviously, when you get the master degree for yourself, you have the bright future ahead of you. And you have to keep on learning so that you become successful in terms of the personal development. Carry on the long life learning, no matter how far or how old we go. So these are the requirements for Masters by Research. Simple as that, but how many of you really comprehend that? Then next, we flip to the Doctorate by Research or PhD. So some of you might start to be wondering, oh, my supervisor asked me to say, I have to have knowledge contribution, theoretical contribution, where these clauses comes from here. So at the end of the program, PhD doctorate students has to demonstrate a critical and in-depth understanding of frontier knowledge by generating substantial and original contribution. It has to have a novelty over there. If you just utilize the models or the theory, you just want to apply it, then that is not the PhD requirement. Okay? And after that, you have to understand, you have to synthesize existing and new knowledge, in more discipline area to develop new concept or interpretations or applications. It has to be interpreted and it has to be applied. Conduct rigorous and independent research or investigation with minimal supervision, similar as a master student's supervision. Demonstrate intellectual leadership qualities and management skills, similar like the master students. Perform research adhered to legal, ethical, professional, and sustainable practices, similar as the master student's supervision. Communicate constantly in the field and interact with specialists and general audience. Similar, right? So that's where that you have to have the ability to communicate verbally as well as written language to disseminate your research finding to the wider audience as well as those within your field. Select and use suitable digital and analytical techniques to research problems. And finally, demonstrate commitment to long life learning and personal development. So when you read over here, then you start to know that, all of these requirements are those that shaping your research idea. You have to start remember that if you're able to read this document as soon as possible or the first day when you want to register your PhD, then you would not get shocked for yourself. You know, sometimes when we're supervising students until the end of the stages, we found loops over here or gaps over here. And we need to overcome these by adding more information, getting more data, run another analysis, but all of these could be corrected or avoided at the first stage. So how practical is it? How far is going to be substantial and original contribution to the field for PhD? All of these will start to put, and criteria for you to shape your research idea. So I hope that all of you can able to look at this from time to time, or maybe if let's say like you found out that difficult, you can print screen. Then after that, you're able to know that what are the requirements as well as the learning outcome, okay, for the master's by research and for the PhD by research. After you understand this, then you know what are the requirements from the institution as well as from your supervisor. So you will not get frustrated when you have to be asked by your supervisor to top this up, to top that up, because we have to know these are the criteria meant to be complied. And all of these terms really meant something for you to make sure it is materialized. Okay, so far so good. So I would like to give 1 minute. If let's say like any one of you have any question, you can type over here for me. Fika, can you help me? If let's say like you can give these participants to have any slot or any time that you want to ask questions so that we can clarify something out from here. We can take a break for 1 minute. I'm waiting for the questions to come in. Anyone?
Yes.
If it's no, you also can tell me no. Thank you, Fika. Can you help? Yes, anyone?
Anyone? If you have any question.
Yeah. So we only open for 1 or 2 minutes. If no, I assume that everybody clears about that. Then we will proceed. If you do not have any question, you also can highlight to me. No question, sir. Please proceed. I'll appreciate so that I know that everyone is clear. So for undergraduates, I think I have some undergraduate students here as well. So if let's say like you're really interested to go for the undergraduate, you also can have a look on this final year project requirement. Okay, right? So thank you to Chin Chun, thank you to Amirul. Right, so we proceed to the next slide, where it's time for us to go for our idea generation. Now for this topic, I have also uploaded on my academia. So as the same process, if you go to academia.edu, then this is the one that I basically take out from my book chapters and I already uploaded here. So you can get this information from the chapters of edited books, particularly when you click over here, then you're able to come into this book chapter, which is called as a formulating and clarifying the research topic. Okay, so I'll go for the second half if none of you have any questions so that we can proceed. Now, for this, I would like to say that these chapters basically tells a few information about supervisors, research proposal. But most importantly, because today we are talking about research idea, so I would like to have a few methods for you and for you to think, how are you going to generate your idea? Or maybe also time for you to reflect on your idea. As I said, right? You never set everything in stone. You have to reflect itself. You can do some checking from time to time. And obviously, there's another one which is called the rubric, okay? The attributes of the good research topic or good research idea over here, which I'll share to you later on, okay? Right, so in generating research idea, the best way, okay? The best way is if the idea is really passionate, the idea is really likable, if the idea is generated by the students himself. That's the reason why we firstly ask the students to give us the proposal. Because from the proposals, we know that the students able to come up with the idea and also concept. Then after that, with the proposal, we can get into the faculty or respective units in order to appoint a supervisor who match the expertise as required. So what we're going to do for those new students, okay, we can start with some practices, but for those who already come to the middle part or the end part, we can also do the similar by checking through whether our research idea is still valid, still robust, and still relevant. So for new students, newbies, new students, you always can think about how are you going to do on subject to topic analysis. Now, this is the one that I always encourage students to do is when you're doing on the research proposal or when you want to generate a research idea, it has to come up from the topic or the subject, For example, the students who are interested in doing marketing studies, right? So it has to get back to the subject marketing in order to generate what are the topics that he or she is interested in. Make sense? So in such a case, it means that the students has the freedom to choose what he or she really likes. And from here, we know when you are like something, you are good at something, means that that's become a positive strength for yours. So over here, it is a basic for undertaking preliminary research for a research idea. You are taking the subject, as I say, then after that, or you're taking the programs, for example, then you choose one subject out from there. Okay, you're choosing one subject out from there. Maybe I would like to share with you a very, how do I say, a quick information that how we do is, for example, that students from MBA, for example, okay, FPTT has MBA, and what we're going to see is we are getting from the subject itself, right? So, for example, you found out that these are the subjects that being offered under the MBA, or all of you who like to pursue your degree by research, or your PhD or master by research. So these are the subjects, okay? And after that, when you know the subject itself, you start to select the topic out from there. Okay, you select the topic out from there. For example, if you are thinking that I would like to study about marketing management and technology. Now, I'm using marketing is because I think most of us under engineering or social science, most of us, we understand how marketing works, correct? Because we are the consumers. So I think these would be a common for us to understand. And if let's say like you love to have marketing management and technology as your studies, then you digging out further down in order to understand what are the topics that we can get from here. It might be has some, for example, okay, social media marketing because they're utilizing technology, digital marketing might be, or any kind of marketings that you never explore. For example, they're going for process marketing. For example, in the process of ethical marketing, okay, or maybe Muslim students who like to go for halal marketing, okay, or maybe you like to go for green marketing. So under the subject itself, you start to select the topics that you're really interested in. So that is where I call as the subject to topic analysis. So from the subject that you have chosen, then you narrow down the scope by looking at the topics that are available. Select one or two that you're really interested, and then after that, you go for the idea generation. Okay, so for example, if some of you say, hey, I would like to look at green marketing, for example, yeah, and the green marketing, I would like to sell all those environmental friendly products. And the platform that I'm going to use is on social media, for example. Then you start digging it out. Okay, what types of environmental friendly products that you want to go? Or what types of social media platform you want to go? Okay, do you want to study in Malaysia or do you want to study in, for example, if you're international students, you want to study back in your countries? What types of the companies that you can access? Who can be your primary data provider? Who are you going to collect the data? You know, all of these will become or mix up a research idea for yourself. Okay, clear? And the second one is scanning the media. Now, from time to time, we also found out that media give us new information, right? So from there, we are capturing all those information. Then we are capable to understand how far do we able to cook our knowledge as well our research idea with the latest development that being highlighted by the social media or by the media itself. So for example, so we know that the recent cases in the whole world is when Taliban already takes over the Afghanistan, right? So it might create some sort of impact, for example, okay, social impact, economic impact, or whatsoever impacts, political impact that you want to have a look. So in such a case, when you scan the media, then you're able to understand more about the topics, about the idea, and you can propose something to do to comply with the idea that's already being highlighted by the media. So since the incidents occurs every day, accessible through newspaper, radio, television, internet, this process also can generate research idea. So searching for this information will familiarize yourself with the current trend and the latest development associated with the topic of interest. Okay, so far so good. So these two are very new for those who are just newly registered or start to think how are you going to generate a research idea for yourself. Then the next one would be go for those who already have the idea, then you can refine the process. Okay, so are you refining the process? Might be you're using relevance tree. So relevance tree is a diagrammatic portray for us to show what are the relationships and how does it coming down. So for example, if you're looking at these are one of the examples of this research relevance tree, where you can keep on refining the ideas until the last bit. Then after that, you're able to extract out from there. Okay, so it has branches like these, you know, yeah. Okay, then after that, you go for the targeted groups or whatsoever. So these are the relevance trees that you can utilize. So for this is good in generating research idea. Start with a broad concept, then after that, generate more and more topics out from there. Okay, so and become the sub branches for you to clarify. Right, the next one would utilizing brainstorming. Now, this is the way that I always love to use when I started my research, you know, when I was like in your position, when I did my master and did my PhD that time, or even when I have any of these, research projects that I need to complete, I always need to utilize this method in order to make myself equipped with the latest development, understand what are my constraints, what are my weaknesses that I need to overcome. So brainstorming is a way to generate research idea, also can be the one to reflect the idea. Okay, so I ask around people. It can be best understand with a group of people asked to provide input, although this can be done by oneself. So the brainstormers, the people, we can always ask from your friends, your colleagues, even though your spouse, you know, your boyfriend, your girlfriend who are very close to you, because those people who knows us very good, but not into our field of studies, sometimes they can provide a fresh view on our studies, you know, a fresh view for our studies. Because like it or not, we always have what we call as the tunnel view in our research. Tunnel view means that we're only able to see something so narrowly, you know, like we are looking so narrowly, only looking at this side, or maybe we are, okay, I would like to say like this, you know, you are narrowly seeing something only like this, but you've forgotten that there are much more bigger scope, you know, because the concentration that we have, this happens naturally. You know, it doesn't mean that something about a serious weaknesses. No, because when we are focusing on something, we've forgotten about outside or anything that even bigger than that. And sometimes people who are not with our field, who are very close to us, support us, sometimes they can give us very innovative ideas. Okay, and then after that, when you see it bigger, then you can see, oh, okay, I can get much wider scope and better and clearer idea from that. So that's why This is the one that you can do by asking many inputs from a group of people who are close to you. Now, what we want to do about brainstorming is, remember, you yourself as a collector, okay? You as a collector, this is the process. But basically, the major hints or the G's of using brainstorming is you do not criticize whatever things people given to you, okay? Now, I utilize this brainstorming to talk with everyone, my friends, my students, my spouse, my parents, you know, because all of them represent different age group and their perspective matters. Now, sometimes when they might give us some of the idea which to us a bit outdated, it's okay. But you know that people are cared about you. That's why they spend time with you. You know, like IPTK cares about you. That's why they asked me to come and share with you this session, right? Or else you better use YouTube to find information for yourself. Why do you need us here, correct? So you have somebody here to share with you, to talk to you. And always remember, you don't criticize at the first stage. You just record whatever things that you found useful, and after that, you reflect for yourself. Then by that, you review all the suggestions, then analyze which one is the most suitable and most appealing for your research idea. Okay, so I think most of the students posted the questions for me. As I said just now, 2018 with the idea generator, right now COVID time comes in. What can you do? Well, you have to be flexible right now. You have to start talk to your supervisor. You have to let him or her or them to know what are the challenges that you are facing. We are under movement control order. We hardly to see people, companies facing bankruptcies, a lot of bad economic indicators coming out, unemployment happens. So what can I do? You have to get the ideas after you go through the brainstorming process. So am I helpful for telling you about this? So hopefully you can start to relate these, and after that you can find a better solution. Instead, you're keeping yourself very quiet. You try to think, how am I going to go for the previous? They've already said no. Remember, you always allow certain degree of flexibility for minor changes, not the major changes. Okay, for minor change. You cannot say that today I would like to do something about the airlines. Tomorrow I would like to change it to become oil and gas. Then next year I want to do about the properties market. Come on, you are changing everything big and drastically, which is not good for you. However, if you found out that some modification has to come in, some of the elements, some of the research problems, some of the research questions, the idea has to be changed. People rejected you, so you have to go through the process of getting the best idea. So bring your ideas, go to your supervisors. Remember, I myself also a supervisor. We always love to hear what do you think and what do you say, and provide us with some of the suggestions. You know, not just knock at our door and, you know, throw us every problems. Then after that, what can we do? The supervision process is the one that makes sure everything has to be complied with and make sure that you are on the progress. You know, supervision process is not the place for you to cry on the shoulders. Then after that, you wipe clean your tears. Then after that, you walk out, then you cannot do anything. So you need to be very smart by proposing some of the ideas. Then after that, you negotiate or you discuss with your supervisor to find the best solution, because your supervisors understand the institutional requirement. We also need to understand your constraint. So remember, brainstorm among your friends, among your loved one, get the ideas, and then brainstorm again with your colleagues. And then after that, refine it, finally bring to your supervisors, able to discuss, or maybe you can brainstorm again. Okay, right. So the next one would be, the fifth one is looking for the past research project. Now this is the one that also for new students who are coming in for their master's or PhD. Now this is the one that we have to be careful, because it is just like two-bladed sword.
Okay, so if you utilize it wisely, able to traject your progress highly. But if you misuse it, you might capture yourself into people previous project and then you cannot walk out from there. So remember the requirement just now from MQA, right? You have to have original contribution, right? Rigorous studies. So that's the reason why I would say that don't always be influenced by the previous project. Instead, you're looking at most of their chapter 5. Now, chapter 5, in most of the theses, we always write the section called recommendation for future studies. And these are the places where the researcher, okay, usually will put their recommendation, because after they know that they have already completed their research, they know what are their limitations and what are their scope. So in chapter 5, there's one section that always they call as recommendation for the future study. So when you look at this chapter 5 in a thesis, normally it gives you some flavor and also some understanding what are the things that you can carry on, okay, after you have read this thesis or you understand the thesis from this specific field of studies. So recommendation for the future study is the one that students able to generate ideas come from there. But remember, do not copy everything out from there, okay? Promise? Because there's also another plagiarism software, plagiarism checking software. They always will check on how much do you actually utilize other sources. Okay, so remember, this is the one that also quite handy in a sense that it gives you some idea and flavor. Okay, but don't repeat whatever has been done. Okay, so that is the way that we can make sure that we're able to come up with the original idea. Next is searching the literature. Now, this is the one for new students as well as for current students. Also, you can start thinking about it. If let's say like you found out that your research idea has not been progressing well as what you expected or what as you planned. So searching for literature, finding the latest information, either it is the secondary data or theory, that is the way also can give you some edge and also advantages for you to polish your research idea. So when someone has a clear idea of the research or topic you wish to undertake, so different type of literature are used to generate the research idea. So this is the one that we call as a state of the knowledge in a particular areas. Now, some of the unfolded assertion or statements of the absence of the research contain ideas that will enable one to provide fresh insight. So that is the place that I said to you just now, the recommendation, as well as some of the literature that has not solved the problem. Okay, the literature gap, it can be your theoretical gap by the end of the day. So you can able to read it, then after that, you're able to generate an idea out from there. Okay, next is talking to others or to your potential supervisors or to the expert in the field. So do you see that this is also quite similar with the one that we have discussed about brainstorming. So talk to your supervisors after you have some suggestions, or when you need information, you can talk to the people so that you're able to generate better research idea, or you can also reflect whether your research idea is still valid, still relevant, still executable. Okay, so you need to know that by understand when you talk to more people, you are able to get more input for yourself. Master's or PhD by research is a lonely journey. So making sure that you're able to talk to everyone, you will not feel so lonely during your studies, and you also can get support. Basically, everybody also has that similar kind of feeling. It just matters who is the one who start the conversation. Do you get what I mean? It's just like the similar situation everyone has. If you feel lonely, you feel frustrated, you feel uncertain, this is a normal process for all of us. So we overcome it. We advise you to talk to your colleagues and share the information with them so that you're able to always get yourself within their groups you are not feeling that you're walking alone. Okay, so far so good. So these are the 7 methods that we have already gone through, and that are those that will hopefully will be helpful for you to generate, or might be refurbished, or might be you're trying to repolish your research idea after some time. Okay, now I'd like to take a break for a while. So do you have any questions that you would like to ask me? You can post it here before we move to the third part. So I have one question from Abdul Karim. He say, if I already have the idea of topic PhD research, but how I know it is a sustainable topic? Well, as I said, how do you know it's a sustainable topic? The first one is you have to make sure that you comply with the learning outcome from the MQA document that I've shown you before. At least if you're able to comply with that, then you know that you're already safe at some place. Do you get what I mean? So as I say, that is a document that you always have to make sure that you need to follow, because that is the general guidance for all the institution of higher learning in Malaysia. Okay, so if you have the PhD title that you say you already come up with, how do you know it's sustainable? Well, simple as you comply with the rules at the first stage. Okay, then after that, you go for just now when I mentioned to you about the ideas, the methods, how do you generate the research idea for your own self. Okay. So Mike, I'd like to share show again for this, right? So how it's going to be sustainable? Well, talking about sustainable, let's talk about how do you comply with the PhD or master requirement at the first stage. Is that clear? Hopefully this is going to be helpful to you. Okay, right. So next question, do I have any more question? So if it's no question, you can type no question. If it has, then you can type to me yes, so that I can check whether are you on my track or are you on my same pace with me. So I'll give you 1 minute. So Faika, can you help me if any students have any question?
Yes, Doctor. There is one question from Nora. One question,
Right.
which
Yes.
is more better for our thesis? Choose quantitative or qualitative, or mix is better?
Okay, Nora, this question, okay, I have to say, the first thing is you have to go for those you are really good at. Okay, take my advice. I will not say that whatever I say is a dictionary. Okay, but I will say that whatever I share with you are my personal experience, as well as my personal experience in learning, as well as supervising. So remember, Nora, first thing is you must good at something first. Okay, you have to really good at something first before you jump on the wagon of master by research or PhD by research. Now, do not bring the attitude. I found out that some of the students, they come in, and after that, when I ask them, why do you take this topic? And then I ask, what are the best topic that you have? So imagine that one student come in, when I doing the supervision discussion, okay, I found out that I always love to ask them what you are really good at. Okay, please come in. More questions while I'm answering on Nora's. So imagine that the students tell me, sir, I'm really good at, I'm really good at marketing, for example. Okay, then I say, then why do you propose project management? Is it you are really good at project management? Then his answer is no, I'm not really good at project management. So it's a puzzle for you to think through why he never select the marketing as his best subject. I say you should select those that you are really, really good at. Because master's and PhD degree are your second and your third degree, which has to portray the strength of yours. Okay, so he said to me, oh, because I'm really good at marketing, so right now I'm not so good in management. I would like to spend time to learn project management. So I said to him, no, that is not the right way. Now, maybe you will say that, oh, why is it not the right way? Because, as I say, the requirement over here is you have to comply with all of these. And there's one clauses, which is a minimal supervision. You can't expect that your supervisor would be 24/7 sticking to you and teach you project management. Am I right? Both masters and PhD also have the similar terms for minimal supervision. So in such a case that you are thinking about utilizing masters or PhD to learn something that you are not good at, what will I say that you are brave, but it's going to be enormously challenging. Definitely. You need to go for the scratch, you need to relearn, you need to read, you need to force yourself to like it for 2 years to 4 years. I'm not sure how far do you going to keep yourself for that motivation. So as I say, the subject must be something that you're really good at. The method also must be something that you're really good at. You know, if let's say like you do not know qualitative, but you read with some terms, well, it sounds fancy. You know, people listen to it might think that, wow, you know, oh, I want to do grounded theory, whereas you do not even experience that before. And then after that, you propose, oh, I want to do grounded theory. And I ask you, are you really good at grounded theory? No, I'm not good at grounded theory. I just want to learn. Come on. You want to learn, you can take time to learn. That's my opinion. Correct me if I'm wrong, you know, but that is a sincere opinion. With 2 to 4 years time that allocated, you have to get yourself graduated on time. So if you think that you're taking the opportunity and then you want to learn everything from scratch, then you are putting yourself into more and more pressure. That is my justification. So if you ask me the question of whether you think qualitative, quantitative, or mixed method is the good one, then my first question is, are you really good at any of them? Or if you're totally marvelous on 3 of them, choose one that you are very, very, very good at. That is the answer. But before that, this method also will be determined by your research design, which we will talk if we have opportunity to meet up again, or maybe I'll hand over to another better colleague or better speaker of mine. See, so research design will determine your method. So at the first stage is think about the subject first, you know, because the subject will contribute to the knowledge. That is the sequence that you should think about, you know. It is not just the idea, because some of the idea does not have any academic justification. Some of the idea doesn't have any academic justification. Or some of the idea might reinvent the wheel. Or some of the idea is just an idea. Or you get what I mean? Some of the idea is just an idea. So it doesn't have any academic justification. So in such a case, you found out that these type of ideas, you kept yourself in too long without linking it to the theory or the knowledge itself, then you might find yourself, you're stuck in somewhere. That is a trouble. So I hope that I answered your question, Nora, by letting you to know it is not the determination of which one is the best from my point of view. Instead, is which one is the best in your capacity. Okay?
Yes, I got your point. I really thank you very much, Professor. I really appreciate your time that you given for me for this question. Thank you very much.
No problem. That's the objective of the clinic. See, you see. So it's not about I'm giving lecture. That's why I welcome more and more questions over here. You know, we spend our time. Time is precious. It is a commodity where you cannot pay me back. I cannot pay you back. So better we well spend our time. Ask as much as possible. If I can answer you, I'll try my best. So I have one question from my colleague, Dr. Samir. What are the boundaries between master contribution and PhD contribution? How to determine the level? Well, that's a very good question, basically. So if you look at this, then it helps us to understand, and the students also to understand on what types of contributions that we want to go for. So you see, if over here for this one, demonstrate in-depth frontier knowledge and understand in the relevant field, that one is quite a general one, right? Because this demonstrated in-depth and frontier knowledge also being applied and also being stated in the PhD. But if you look it clearer, critically and create applied knowledge in one or more fields to resolve practical problems. So I think this second statement start to give us to understand the application of this master degree knowledge is highly appreciable, highly appreciated and highly recommendable. Okay. Now, if you look at the second one, apply in one or more fields, it also has it, right? So you have to have what do you call as hold on, contribute, and after that interpret, and after that you also have to yes, to research the problem, you know, okay, and over here, okay. So what makes the research of the doctorate over here? You have to have a critical in-depth understanding of frontier by substantial and original contribution. That's where that your supervisors and PhD students, you keep asking yourself, where are my novelty? What are the things so new about my studies? If you are just merely to, you know, validate something without come up with another new thing, then I'm afraid that you might be asked a lot of questions during your Viva session or your proposal defense session of, so what? Yeah, I know this is a very rude question, but people do ask this question. So that makes the differences over here. And after that, you found out that there's another one, synthesize existing and new knowledge, okay, to develop new concept of interpretation or application. So you need to have also application over here. So I hope that with these, then you found out that the criteria that have been laid out under the doctorate by research and master by research are significantly different. So that's the reason why practicality is highly emphasized in master's and PhD, while theoretical contribution is a must under the PhD itself, because it already spells out over here. Substantial, original contribution, new knowledge, and new concept into interpretation or application. Okay, so I hope that I have answered my colleague's question, Dr. Samir. Okay, right, so come to a next question from Lisa. I've been reading for last 3 hours every day. Some days I read 5 to 6 hours. It's adequate. I find rather taxing. Should I engage in selective reading? Okay, so Lisa, I think your question is mostly about literature review, am I right? So maybe I would like to say in such a way. Now, when you read, you also need to understand what is the purpose for you to read. If you are reading merely for understanding, there are always reasons for us to read, okay? Or maybe I'll call as a literature review. You know, when you read information, okay, it can okay, I do not want to call it as literature review. Maybe it's too robust. I'll call it that you read, you find for the theory, you find for the concept, you find for the data, you find for the evidence, okay? Or maybe you want to find for any supporting statement, okay? You think something, you know, you want to find some supporting statement to help you. Maybe you are thinking this way. You know, for example, I think if I don't eat rice, if I don't eat rice, I only eat protein, you know, am I going to get myself slimmer? Okay, so I try to find a supporting statement. Now, Lisa and all the students out there, when you read, you need to know what's the purpose for you to read. If let's say like you're just merely reading, then you are reading by just doing for your understanding, and you will not bring anywhere. I do not say it about selective reading. I think all of you have the capability to find in terms of the selective reading. Instead, when you read, you need to start to categorize it. I will always love to do this. Maybe this is the way that I do. I'm not sure whether are you going to happy to see my way, but you know, I'm not a stingy guy, so I'll tell you how do I do my reading. So most of the time when I do my reading, I'll start to do categorizing. So I'll categorize if, let's say, like I would like to know this is for general concept, you know, yeah, or I would like to know that this is something for definition. You know, so I would like to find some clear information under this section. I would also like to find something about the evidence, okay? Oh, you know, it happens somewhere in Malaysia, you know, COVID, and after it happens in the UK, and then it getting more and more serious in India. You get what I mean? And the third one, I would like to find someone who are VVIP, you know, to talk something so important. Then after that, it can become the supporting statement from me. For example, someone from WHO, 666 something, you know, KKM, you know, Ministry of Health Malaysia, 666 something, or the Prime Minister said something. You get what I mean? These are the ones that are going to be something that will support my studies. Okay, next. What else? Oh, I would like to know about theory. You know, so I would like to know about the theory. So I would like to collect the theory. Maybe I would like to categorize, okay, 2010, do I have any of the scholars who are writing during that years? Or 2011, until 2021, okay? So this is the way that when I read, I do my categorizing. Because after this, all of this can be put into your thesis according to the sections that you want to create. Does it make sense? So you are not wasting the time by just reading for understanding. You know, we read newspapers, right? We watch news every day, right? But do we really put into our writing? No. We read it, we understand, because it is just for information purposes. And then it's nothing much more about the things that we want to pick and after that put into the thesis. Okay, so that is the differences when we want to do academic writing and also in order for us to do our understanding. I hope that I have answered your question, Lisa. Okay.
Yes, I think you read my mind. So basically those branches that we made is basically that will help me to answer the questions rather than, you know, hopping here and there, right?
Yeah. Actually, you can
think my
hop here and
internet is
there,
really
you know.
bad.
I mean, that's the nature. Sometimes we also, I mean, that's also a psychological challenges. We will have a mental fatigue if we keep on reading the theory without non-stop, or we are trying to find all those data. It starts to make our life very boring. Am I right? So you can jump here
Yeah.
and there, but just remember when you're setting up, you know, a category, just open up a Microsoft Words for yourself, right? I always do that. And then I label it accordingly, you know. Then after that, I can start to, okay, I read this, then I can copy paste, I pop inside there. I remember the references that are already done. So that's the way that I start to collecting whatever that I read. And the best thing is I will do collecting, then after that, I'll do trimming. So don't do collect and trim at the same time. You will not go anywhere. Do you get what I mean? So you collect everything first. You collect, okay, until you feel that, okay, that's it. I feel very satisfied about it. Only you do trimming because you would like to throw away all those branches, all those things that you found is not useful, repeated statements, similar ideas. You can combine it, then fine. And then after that, tell yourself, okay, that's a section I completed. I'll come back later. I always have time to come back later. But don't spend too much time over here. You know why? Because second year already become year 2022. Then after that, 2023. Then after that, 2024. There's no best information that you're capable to collect. Remember that. There's no best version that you ever able to collect. None of it. The only things that you can collect is the latest and most updated. That is the differences. So once you have the foundation or the things already inside there, come back later. You always have time. Don't worry about that. Okay?
All right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Dr.
Okay.
Chu.
No problem. So yes, PM Safia also here. The respected Dean also here. Oh, you make me nervous. Research gaps. If students cannot find a gap, it is wrong in PhD. Okay, ideal. I cannot say in this way, you know, because the gap itself has a lot of meaning. I think I'll give you some flavors, but I cannot say in total because we are still talking about research ideas, right? So they always have a few gaps that exist. One is called theoretical gap, okay? Another one is methodological gap, okay? Another one is practical gap, okay? Or we call empirical gap, methodological gap. So that's why you see I'm doing live. I'm not just clicking on my PowerPoint and if I have mistake, don't laugh at me, okay? So empirical gap. So what are these meanings? Okay, I think this should be the last question from Ideal before I proceed to the third section. Yeah. So if you ask me about the theoretical, there have a lot of gaps that you want to see which one you can best fit in. You know, I would say that many of us at the first stage when you are just newly coming for your PhD, you know, like myself, you know, we always want to rescue the world. Yeah, we suddenly become Wonder Woman, Superman, Spider-Man, you know, Batman or Iron Man, whatsoever man that we want, and then we would like to rescue the world. We would like to have the research topic which is too big, and then we want to change, if possible, the entire world as we dream of, right? We dream of. But when you get into the pace, when you start your reading, then you start to find out that that is not about the idea and the dreams anymore. Yes, they can be motivating, but we need to get down to the academic writing, as you need to portray the qualities so that by the end of the day, your research is produced, and after that, it translated into the thesis, and after that, you get into the viva. So the theoretical gaps exist in a theory. Okay, they always have gaps that exist in a theory. That's why just now when I mentioned to you, you heard about, you know, green marketing previously. Yes, it was a gap before. You know, people always talking about green should be technology or hardware, but people forgot that it can be a practices, ethical marketing. Yeah. So that's a gap also. How far do you define ethical itself, right? Another one, theoretical gap, I love to always give examples. Yeah. So if you always listen about satisfaction, customer satisfaction, right? Okay. You always know that this is a classical theories about customer satisfaction. So most of us, we adopt this everywhere, and we assume that those people receiving product or services, they are the customers. But if you extend this customer satisfaction in hospital treatment, okay, then you found out that the theories start to become difficult to be matched. Because the customer satisfaction you put into hospital treatment, why not? You should take patient satisfaction. Hospital treatment. So you found the theoretical gap here where you can start to be to come in and then conduct research to fit in the gap. Methodological gap are those that previously, you know, the previous research, they utilize A, okay, they utilize A method and found out that these methods arrive or come into a conclusion called AA, okay? So you look at this aspect and you found out that something is missing over here because it does not give a whole or bigger picture. You know, you can criticize in such a way, or not a complete picture or not a complete scenario. So maybe you would like to propose to use B, okay, A plus B, so that you are able to complement the entire picture. So that's where the methodological gap comes in. Okay, so that is the one. Practical gap or empirical gap are those that we are talking about how far the study is practical and implementable. You know, sometimes you found out that, okay, let me share with you. When we talk a lot about e-learning, right? Oh, that is the best thing. That's the things that we should championing. That's the things that we should move on. Everybody should go for it. Yes, fine. But what about those places which has the accessibility of very weak or even no IT connections? Then it makes a very huge gap in terms of a huge digital gap. Am I right? Right? So if you're thinking that, hey, I want to use these e-learning models, I want to go for those countries. Yes, appreciated. But some of the places, they have fundamental problems. So how are we going to utilize the similar method, but right now under COVID or under certain circumstances? That's where the practical gap comes in. Okay, so I give you some flavor about this. Hopefully, with this brief and quick explanation, it starts to tell you something about the gap. But I would like to say that it is not necessary must every gap has to be filled. Okay, and then I cannot say that cannot find the gap. You surely find the gap. Ideal. You surely find the gap. Why? Fundamentally, the first gap that you would need to contribute is the theoretical gap if you are the PhD students. Okay, because remember just now the MQA document states what? You have to come up with a substantial and original contribution, and you have to have synthesized existing and new knowledge. Come on, your gaps already being determined. That's why when we go for our, again, my experience when I become the proposal defense panel, when I go into my Viva, and when I read the thesis, I read the pro, I'll find these things first. If he is a PhD candidate, I would definitely emphasize on this first. You know, if I found out that that's not there, I will highlight this and I will tell them, okay, you have missing things over here. You have not contributed to the knowledge. You are just merely validating the research. You just answer the research problem, give solution, but you have not come up with anything substantial and new contribution to the field. Okay, so what are the missing links there? That are the missing links that you need to come in and fill up. So I hope that ideal, you already have the gap there. So it's impossible that you cannot find. You already know there's a gap over there. Okay, right? So any more questions? So I think if it's no, then I'll give the last piece of information. Then hopefully you will learn complete information from me. Right. So after that, we would like to evaluate the research idea. As I say, because this talk, you know, is not only accommodating the first year students, but also the mid-year, as well as those who are already near to the end, going to be a master's or going to be the doctor very soon. So we need to evaluate and refine the research idea. Okay, remember, as I say, don't just keep changing your research idea. You know, change is inevitable, but change is not good for the process, right? So you know that. So try to stick firm to the idea, the context, and then allow some flexibility, but don't from one field jump to another theory, from one to another. You are making yourself exhausted actually, right? So what we want to look at is after the idea generation, we want to evaluate the idea before turning into the topic, or if you're already in the midway, how far your topic and your idea is still relevant. Okay, so that is the one, that first one for internal evaluation means that for you yourself. Okay, so is the topic something which is fascinating? Do you like it? That is the first thing that we always tell the students. If you do not like it, you will not carry it on. That's a very simple thing, right? You do not like the food, you will not even eat it, correct? You do not like the clothes even people buy for you, will not even wear it. So if you do not like the topic, how can you run it? How can you do it? It's definitely going to be very difficult for you by forcing your own likeness and also what do you like. Second one, do you have key within the project time frame, necessary research skill to undertake the topic? That's why just now, Nora, I answered you, you know, it's not about how good the supervisor looking at that. It's how good you are. Then after that, with that method, then you propose the design in such and such and such. That's the way that we complement. We have to acknowledge that all of you coming not with an empty mind. You have your experience, you have your knowledge, you have everything with you, you have the practicality with you. I never treat my students, none of my students is treated, they come in with empty minded. No, they all come with certain experience, certain background. They come from industry. I have to speak like industry people to them. They come from, sometimes they come from public agencies. I need to speak the language of the public agencies to them. You get what I mean? So every students come with the unique strengths and weaknesses. So as a supervisor, we try to help them by tapping the best and make them to portray, able to project their best in May. Okay. So remember, time frame 2 and 4 years is your time frame. Don't ever think about want to do something about Nobel Prizes research. Of course, if you can, then please proceed. But if you're thinking that you need to go, you're in Malaysia, you want to study the iceberg in Atlantic, you need to fly here and there. Okay, please think twice. Okay, please. Okay. So is it a research idea achievable within the available time? As I say, cost, time itself, those are your resources. And I always tell my students, my PhD, my master student, my undergraduate student, time is the biggest enemy of yours. You forget about it, because you tend to forget about it, but it really goes through and slips through your fingers even without your notice. Okay. Will the topic still be current when one finishes the project? This is particularly important for those masters and PhD students. Okay, you need to make sure that whatever you study, you at least have the future proof. Okay, don't hope on trends. Okay, we'd like to talk about this. What does it mean by trend? Don't hope on trends. It has to be future proof. Okay, imagine that you already spent 4 years time doing your PhD, then you come out. Okay, then you call yourself, I'm Dr. XYZ or Dr. Who. Okay, right? Dr. Who, Dr. Xavier. And after that, you say that I have an expertise and such and such and such. Now remember, do not reinvent the wheel. Okay, those things has passed, let it pass. Okay, when people has no more, not many people, okay, for example, if a topic that I would like to highlight, maybe some of you disagree with me, but that at least a sincere information from me. So some of them, they will always query whether is it training is the training is the best way to improve human competence. Okay, for example. Okay, so you take this topic or something to do with this statement or something to do with this research problem, and then you're trying to run it through. Then after that, you prove, yeah, it is true. Training is the best way to promote HR competence. And then, the professor out there will start to ask this question, right? So when he asks this question, it means that what are so interesting about your topics and your expertise? Does it really make your topics future-proof? When people already talking about knowledge management, right? When people already talking about talent management, okay? And do you know that people talking about idea economy? You have to know all these new things. Come on. You are the PhD, you are the masters, or you are the undergraduates who are doing the research. You get what I mean? Okay. So these things you have to keep on reading. Information are out there. Just don't be passive. Okay. Don't be passive. Just go out, read, and find new information to enrich yourself. Okay. So future proof. Are you able to do that? Particularly PhD, after you have graduated, are you able to supervise, create another new batch of students under your wings? Is it a topic available with the financial resources likely to be available? Remember, if you are sponsored students or you are self-sponsored, financial is also one of the big headaches for you if you're unable to manage them well. Is it one reasonable being able to gain access to the data? That is also another information that you have to make sure that you tick the box before you generate your research idea. If let's say like you think, oh, I would like to interview, the founders of Facebook, Mark. Do you think that you're able to get the data for them? Or you are thinking, oh, I want to talk to the Prime Minister to ask him about the COVID policy. Do you able to access the data at the first stage? If it's no matter how good the idea is, the idea will start to become a burden for you. Okay. Now, external evaluation for those who are at the near midterm and at the end of the study. Does your topics or does your idea fits the standard meeting the examination institution? So you see, when people ask where is the standard, these are the standard. Okay, these are the standard that you have to always prepare yourself. Tick the boxes. You know, oh, I've done this, done this, done this. Okay, I'm ethical. You know, I'm not studying about people gossip. You know, people things or affairs. It's not my business, not my research scopes. I won't put in. Be professionals, right? And obviously, does a topic contains issues that have a link to the theory? Remember, no matter you are undergraduate, master's, or PhD, you must have a link to the theory because the theory departs your studies. Do you have to state research question and research objective clearly? You know, very, very clearly academically. This is also another art for us to set research question and research objective. So another clinic can be called, if you like. You can reflect to IPTK, the top management, and request them to purposely set one for you. Were the proposed research able to provide fresh insight into this new topic? Okay. If you are keep talking about customer satisfaction, okay. So I have get into this topic for many times, and I also ask my students not to do it. You know, customer satisfaction. Okay, some of them they're doing customer satisfaction or using different mobile phone brands. Okay, so for example, Samsung versus Apple. Okay, that's okay, fine. Then customer satisfaction different in terms of fast food. Okay. So they are comparing between KFC, you know, that is okay still, you know, so because it still gets something for us to understand about the nature of the fast food. Then it gets down more and more, I do not know why. So they started to have customer satisfaction. They want to compare the differences, you know, between two shampoo, okay. They want to compare between Dettol and also Lifebuoy, okay. Am I okay? Yeah. Am I spelling the right one? I'm not sure. And then after that, once they found this one, they put customer satisfaction differences. Okay. This time better, or I'm better means that I'm just teasing them between Colgate. Okay. And after that, Dali. Okay. Then after that, you get more and more customer satisfaction. And then the differences between Pantene shampoo, you know. So you get more and more this type of topics. Once you never control. So you ask yourself, is it worth for you to study something like this? You know, you are not doing any marketing studies, but you are looking at these, then you do comparison more and more like that. You know, so by the end of the day, what are the contributions from there? We do not know. Okay. So that's the topic clearly to the organization which were under the research. If let's say like you're doing on management studies, you go back to the organization. Does this topic helpful for them? You know, one of the criteria why no one wants to answer our question because our research is merely for your own self. You never want to share with them. You know, why not? In the future, if you want to send your survey over to this company, promise them after that I'll share with you the result. Then they're happy to take part, correct? And we also found out that recently a lot of standardized email, they don't even call our name. Dear Prof, please fill out this question. 10 minutes only, thank you. No, sir, no calling our name. If you're able to write to everyone, why don't you just put the name itself, correct? Now they appreciate, you know, your time. This one will be helpful. Some of them are demanding, you know, please fill up for me. I am from Y University. You know, please do for me. You know, you are not being helpful. You know, you have to always understand how much do you able to contribute to the organization, particularly. The last one is, does it match your career goals? Do you want to make it as your expertise? Do you really enjoy doing it and develop as your professional's career up from there? So there's a lot of considerations that you need to think through when you're generating a research idea. Okay, so the last one over here, I would like to say is I always request or even make the students to conduct a SWOT analysis. You know, the first time when I see him or her. So I think this one also can be shared to all the supervisors out there, you know, all my respected colleagues, as well as all the students. You can prepare, then you can tell, you know, okay, you know, for example, I'm an international student from Afghanistan, for example. I'll just give examples, you know, don't mad at me. So because of the political instability right now, so I cannot collect my data over there. So the threat, you can put the threat like that, okay? Or for example, I'm a sponsored student because of my sponsored period is only for 3 years. So I have a time limitation. I cannot stretch for 4 years. You tell everything. You know, the more that you let your supervisor or supervisors to know, the more he or she them to know you better. Okay. So conduct this one. What is your strength? What do you really like? What are the subjects you're really good at? The method. What is your career dream? You know, after you got your PhD, you want to be academia, you want to be consultant, you want to go back industries. Is it you need to comply with the organization requirement, the company that sponsored you, particular skills that you need to acquire? You know, all of this you can spell out very clearly, you know. And then finally, think about the future. Okay, even though you might thinking that 2 years, 3 years is very long, but you know, you have to think ahead sometimes. What's the reason that you do for this master's and PhD? What it can be helpful for yourself. You know, you are not just doing your PhD or master just for the sake of getting the title, because when you get the title, you completed the degree, the society really respect you on a certain extent. You are the expert. You are the one who really know your subject matters very well. So you have to know about how people perceive on the title and also the degree that you gain. So think about futures, okay? So what be you have to have, you know, your access into your network. You want to go to work at the company, might be. You would like to go for, you know, job searching, academic or whatsoever. It is also something that relate to the idea of the future proof, okay? So I hope that this is a very tiny paper, book chapters that written. So if you're interested, you always can come and have a look. Now I welcome the last slot of the questions. If let's say you have, you can fill up for me. Okay, so I get questions from my colleague, PM Safia. Is it important for us to decide which body of knowledge are we contributing in doing our research? Yes, obviously it is true. Now, one of the things that I have to highlight over here as well, I mean, this one is the one that I found out and I also shared with my colleagues as well. When you are doing your studies, for example, we are PhD in technology management, right? For example. So the title are holding this. So I always share with them, I say, remember, when they have this title in somewhere, the field of studies should be get into technology management, okay, at least, you know. So if those who are putting something else from here, then you found out that the PhD that you originally set with the title might not match with what you have done in your research. That's the first thing. Okay, so it gets down to PhD in, you know, human resource management, right? So these encompass everything about human resource management. If you suddenly want to study about, you know, you come in and then you tell us you want to study about project management over here or R&D over here, which has nothing to do with human resource management, then it gives some contradictions in terms of the degree title as well as the content of your thesis later. Okay, body of knowledge, which is very true, PM Safia. That's why when you say about the body of knowledge itself, we simplified it as the subject itself first. That's why the first thing that we can go through is we start to select on what are the subjects that we would like to contribute. That's where that right now it starts to make sense while we go through the subject, and after that we go to the topic analysis. Because by the end of the day, the subject itself is a body of the knowledge itself. And when you have the topic, which is a sub for this subject, is definitely going to be contributive to the knowledge and the body of the knowledge. Okay, so I hope that I've answered your question. Anymore, how we position in an interdisciplinary research? How do we position? Okay, now this is a very good question in terms of how wide our scope is. When we're talking about interdisciplinary research, right? Many of the students, they start to think about, it started to combination of a lot of field of studies, right? That is your first ideas. Am I right? The answer is partly true, but not entirely true. Now, interdisciplinary research are those that right now we are highlighting. It's because of the evolvement of the knowledge. The previous knowledge, when they started, it goes back to the very fundamental single knowledge produced. So you found out that the nature science, biology, chemistry, physics, they all are nature, very fundamental research that they conducted. But from time to time, we found out that they need to evolve. And the evolutions of this knowledge is not because of any force, but it's by organically its form. So one thing that we have to understand, why is it the discipline has to be integrated and also interdisciplinary, is because of the macro aspect. That right now, when we are moving into the evolvement, advancements of technologicalization, okay, let me put in this way, globalization, digitalization, okay, climate change, all the big agendas over here. Industrialization would be the start. Okay, and right now we are talking about industrial 4.0, blah, 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 correct? So all of these technologicalization, okay, might be the wrong terms or what. So all of these start to shape how the discipline actually integrating with one another organically. So in such a case, interdisciplinary start to emerge because we found out that a single disciplinary cannot stand by its own ground. Okay, a single disciplinary cannot stand by its own now. So it has to be complementing or complement by other sectors. Like it or not, the most that we found out under management studies, if you are under management studies, ICT is the one that already become one of the interwoven into our social and life fabric. We cannot get ourselves out from ICT anymore. Agree with me? So that's why if you do it on HR, you found out that people are talking about HRMIS. If you're talking about marketing, people are utilizing marketing into a digital form. That's where the digital marketing comes in. So I think this is the first layer of understanding. Okay. Now I get into PM Safia question because I think that's the last one, yeah, because we have time, right? So how do we position? Okay, as I say, we are able to look at it organically, and because of the organically formed, so it means that it has to be organically formed, then it has to be bound by what we call as internal validity. Internal validity means that there is a real relationship that links A and B together, and it must be logic. It must be logic. So in such a case, those that organically interwoven, like for example, HRMIS, digital marketing, they already emerge as a new interdisciplinary research, right? And right now, because of sustainability comes in, people also linking with sustainability, right? The 17 sustainability goals for climate change, environmental friendly, green things, green technology are all comes in. But what I would like to come out here is when we know that it has to be a real relationship that links A and B, we also can hypothesize Okay, hypothesize that there are something that has to be relayed by putting in another elements in. Okay, hypothesis. Okay, by linking anything in, for example, originally A and B are connected, but now let's put C to see whether it is going to be having any changes. Then the man is trying to expand the scope or the boundary of our transdisciplinary research. Okay, this one I think I have to say at the moment, this one's still mostly yeah, not 100% true on those engineering parts. So you found out that once they found out the bio components somewhere over there, then after that they put in robotics into the human body. Okay, then after that what they want to do, they want to modify in terms of the gene. Okay, so this is the way that helps maybe the handicapped people, okay, or those people who are unable to walk, those people who are paralyzed, vegetations, all of these people. So they are putting in there to try to repair. So that is the another stick of the interdisciplinary research that might come. Then after that, from a social science angle, we also can look at this from the management as well as social science point of view. Okay, so I hope that I have answered. So Chin Chun Cat, Prof, I have a okay, no problem, right? So I hope that I have come to the end of my sharing. So I'll pass back to Fika. So can you help to share the next session? Any more Q&A? If it's no, then that should be fine. Thank you very much, guys.
Okay, thank you for the informative and interesting talk. So now we come to Q&A session. If you have any more questions, please ask and don't forget to mention your name, or you can write in our chat box.
Yeah, I think give yourself another 5 minutes. You know, if let's say like you have any more information that you want to get from me or you want to clarify, so we'll just wait for 1 minute. Is that okay? So if it's no, then it's okay. So hopefully you have learned something from me. Okay. Right. So I think after approximately 10 seconds, so no question. So can I ask, can you give me a feedback possible? If let's say like I've done my job, that I've explained you very well, that you are very clear. 1 marks means that very bad, 10 marks is extremely good. Can you give me your score? You can give me any score that you like. Then I'll see how far they have done. So 1 is very bad. 10 is good, bad. So, you can give me so that I can understand how far I have done on this clinic. Okay, can you? So every one of you, can you help me by giving me this marks? Yes. Oh wow. Okay, you are very very kind. I hope that I've achieved the mentions for the clinic. It's not about webinar and also just utilizing the PowerPoint to click. Oh wow, got 10 upon 10. All right. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So I would say that okay. Can I make a joke here? Okay, yeah. Should I make a joke? No, it's okay. I'll bring the joke next time. So what I would like to say is thank you very much for love it your baby. Sangat semangat. No, the thing is we spend our time wisely. Okay, when we are called over here for knowledge sharing, we must utilize our time wisely. You invest your time in me, correct? So you have the time spent well with me. I have so many of you, 71 of you, So if I have 1 hour, 2 hours, 100, how many hours are 142 hours? There's so many days that I can cover. So I have to make sure that I did my job. So with that, thank you for the time and also well spent. You definitely have more
very good IPTK lecturers who's going to come in and share with you again, right? So I'll pass back to Faika or PM Safia. You have anything you want to say? Or PM Sazlin, you have anything you want to say?
Assalamualaikum and a very good afternoon, especially to our specially guest speaker, PM Dr. Chu. All right, I really appreciate the time that you spend, right, with our students at IPTK. And I think not only students from IPTK, there are also students from other faculties. And I'm really excited and happy with the participation from the participants also, right? And the information that you give, Dr. Chu, is very helpful. And this is the first stage or the first step for us to actually give an introduction on how to go about, especially for the, I think for the new students, on how to go about positioning their research and deciding on what topic or research area that they want to embark. And I have to actually pose some questions, right, just to make sure that they know what they are going, where they are going to, especially on the interdisciplinary research, because as you may know, interdisciplinary research is now kind of the in thing nowadays, because we cannot work in one single discipline. It has to be a combination of at least two disciplines. And what you have explained just now, I think the rest of the participants actually get the ideas, right? And I hope we will have more of these kind of sessions so that we can share with the students. I may not see the students, but the learners, because majority of them are adults learners, I suppose, right? This is a very good platform, and we may at IPTK, we will try to come up with this kind of platform, and I think you are the first one that we invited. Thank you again. Thank you very much. I'm so sorry I cannot share my video here, right? Okay, all right. Thank you to the learners and also to the participants, right, who joined this program. Inshallah, we will make more, we will set up more programs with respect to this kind of what you call session. And I would really love if we can have more active questions or more questions from the learners so that we can share our knowledge, right, with them, and they can also share their experience, because majority of them have the experience, but it's just mere for us to guide them on how to go about doing an appropriate research. That's all from me. Thank you very much. And I would also like to thank the organizers of this session, which is PM Dr. Sazlin, and who is our moderator? I'm not too sure. Faika. Yes, Faika.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, that's all from me.
Okay, so Faika, for you to close, thank you.
Okay, finally, we come to the end part of our webinar. I would like to say thanks again to our speaker for the informative and interesting talk, and to audience for active participation. Hopefully, the talk will be beneficial for everybody. It's been a pleasure being with all of you today on behalf of IPTK. Thank you for making this program a great success. I would like to ask all participants to turn your webcam for photography session.
Okay. Yeah, I have my colleagues, my friends over here. You know, sharing is caring. That's my concept. You know, it's not, I'm always right. No, I'm not always right. I just share with what I have. Hello, nice to see you guys. So you want to do a sharing, right? Okay.
Hello, Doctor.
Hello. So Faika, you want to take the photos for all of us, right? Faika?
I'm doing that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So you ask us 1, 2, 3, then we.
Okay, ready, guys? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Right. Okay, next. Okay. Okay, done. Great. Thank you very much, PM Dr. Chu And all participants, thank you very much for participating in our program. Inshallah, we will be having a similar program like this in the near future. So just wait and for the posters and also for the poster to be published in the near future. Okay, I think that's all.
Thank you very much. Okay. Take care, guys.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
thank you guys.
Bye-bye.